let's go ahead and get going here. Welcome everyone to Getting Started with Dedoose for Qualitative and Mixed Methods Research. My name is Dr. Sarah Grummert. I work for both Dedoose and the Institute for Mixed Methods Research, and I'll be taking you through these different topics today. I'm going to start off with a little background about Dedoose, features, benefits, and also a couple notes about our pricing model. And then I want to dive into some Dedoose terminology. So going over the foundational elements and also some data preparation tips for you. And then we'll do a live demonstration within Dedoose. I'm going to take you through the home screen, give you an orientation to each of the workspaces in Dedoose, and then we'll actually create a project, import data, and start coding that data. And then I'll leave you with some learning resources and next steps so that you know where to go next for resources depending on what type of data you have or what type of analysis you want to do. Alrighty, so Dedoose is a qualitative and mixed methods data analysis application. That may be obvious, but I think it's worth bringing up that Dedoose can handle both qualitative and quantitative data, so you can analyze those in relation to one another. Dedoose was actually created by UCLA researchers. I bring this up because as you move throughout the application, you'll see that each feature and function is really grounded in qualitative and mixed methods methodologies. Dedoose is a cloud-based application, so this means that you can access Dedoose anywhere where you have an internet connection. It's not like a typical software where you're bound to a specific machine, so you can really access your data anywhere, anytime. So Dedoose can really help you maximize both your data management and your data analysis. On the data management side, there are dozens of features and functions in Dedoose to help you create certain subsets of your project or even use it as a project management tool. And I want to quickly touch on some more features and benefits here. So you've heard me talk about Dedoose being cloud-based. I like to emphasize this because this enables real-time collaboration with any other Dedoose user. So it's not like other softwares where you have to download the project, work on it, and then re-upload it somewhere and have your pieces merged with other folks. That's not the case. With Dedoose, you simply add folks to the project and you can be coding and collaborating on the same exact document in real time. Again, you can analyze both qualitative and mixed methods data in relation to one another. It's platform independent, so you don't have to worry if you're on a Mac or Windows computer. You can switch between them, so you're not bound to a specific machine, and Dedoose will work on both. The user interface is very intuitive and easy to learn, and I'll be going over that later with you today. And with that user interface, you also can customize that to 4 different languages. Currently, we have Spanish, Chinese, German, and English. And just a sidebar here, you can upload any language in terms of data and code it, but this is just to customize the user interface. You can use these 4 languages. And lastly, with Dedoose, you get hands-on training, consultation, and support available for you. Next, I want to hit on a couple points about pricing. So your first 30 days are free, and that is a full featured trial. You don't even need a credit card. You can just go to dedoose.com/signup, and then you're good to go. From there, if you're a student, the rate is $10.95 per active month. Active month means Dedoose will only charge you for the months you actually log in. So if you upload some data, code it for the month of March, but then you don't log in for 6 months, Dedoose will not charge you for those 6 months that you do not log in. And then all other individual accounts are $14.95 per active month. So again, not charging you for the months that you don't log in. We also have small group rates and large group rates. So you get a discount if you're working in a group. And we also have organizational options. So the Premier package, that's ideal for really like small research teams, maybe a college department or a small organization. And then we have our enterprise subscription. So this is great for universities or large research organizations where you want a lot of people to have access to Dedoose. So it's unlimited users, and you have a choice between an annual plan or a monthly plan. And both of those options come with advanced support, trainings, and workshops. If you want more information about any of those packages, feel free to email support@dedoose.com and we can get you set up with a representative. All right, next I want to go over some terminology and those foundational elements of Dedoose before we go into the application. These are the 4 foundational elements that Dedoose uses to create a web of connections in your data. So first off, we have media. This is quite simply the qualitative data that you're going to upload into Dedoose. So if you have transcripts, maybe images, PDFs, video data, if you have any open-ended survey responses, all of those are going to be categorized as media. Next, we have descriptors. So this refers to any quantitative or categorical data associated with those media that you upload. So for example, if you have an interview that you upload and you want to attach demographic information, those would be classified as descriptors. If you have any quantitative data, such as survey results or scores, those would be descriptors. Perhaps you're interested in research sites or even tracking change over time. So if you have pre or post, or just tracking different time points in your study, descriptors are great to use. Excerpts refer to any smaller pieces or snippets of your data that you're flagging as significant to your study. So this could be a quote or a passage from an interview or document, maybe a portion of an image or a small video clip. All of those would be classified as excerpts that you can then attach codes to. So a code is simply a word or phrase that you're creating to capture a specific topic of interest in your study. So Dedoose is using all of those elements to create a web of connections throughout your project. I really like this slide because it does show how all of these elements are connected. And we also have memos that can be connected to media, excerpts, and also codes. So memos in Dedoose are a little different than you may think of memos in the research context. Memos in Dedoose you can think of as like little post-it notes that you can attach to either your media, excerpts, or codes to document perhaps your analytical thoughts as you're going through and analyzing your data, any reflexive memos, notes to your team members, anything like that. You can create a memo and attach it to these different elements. All right, so now let's pivot and talk a little bit about data and the types of data that Dedoose can handle. You can upload nearly any type of data into Dedoose. Of course, you can upload documents, spreadsheets, images, audio, video files, other projects. So if you're transitioning from a different software or application, you can import your project into Dedoose, and you can also export your project out of Dedoose, so you're never bound to a certain software or application. And you can also create a blank document and copy and paste information into Dedoose as well. A couple notes on data prep here that I think might be helpful. So if you're doing any text-based data analysis, such as interviews, focus groups, a document analysis where you're interested in the actual text, a Word document is going to be the best format. It's going to be more efficient and you just have more flexibility within Dedoose. If you were doing a more historical analysis, for example, and you're uploading a historical document where you're also interested in the visuals of the document, then of course you can upload that as a PDF. We just like to caution people who are really trying to do a text-based analysis to stay away from PDFs because it will save them some time. But know that you can still upload PDFs And if it's a newer PDF file format, you can analyze that as text, or you can analyze it as an image, and you'll have those options presented to you. It's also helpful to think about how you want those documents named and labeled, if you want to anonymize your data before you upload, and then also any preferred formatting of your document. When it comes to survey data, an Excel sheet is going to be the best format. You're going to have columns for any demographics, multiple choice questions, Likert scale questions, and any other quantitative information. And then you can also have your open-ended questions in that same Excel sheet. This is a quick tip that you can use _DD_qual_ directly in front of the column title to make sure that Dedoose reads that as qualitative data. Usually the system will read it correctly, but if you had someone that only put, a couple words, that may trip Dedoose up. So this is one way to ensure that your qualitative data is categorized correctly. And this is a quick example for you showing that those columns are our descriptor titles, so gender, eye color, and age. And then each row refers to a specific participant. So that first row there is a woman with blue eyes who was age range 26 through 49. And then you have her qualitative response. And you'll see that we put _DD_qual_ before we upload it to make sure that it categorized it as qualitative data. If you want to know more about survey data, the Institute for Mixed Methods Research actually put on a webinar last month, and we'll link you to that webinar in the notes. It will take you through data preparation all the way through import and different analysis charts that will be helpful. All right, now let's transition over to Dedoose. Okay, so now we're in Dedoose. If it's your first ever time logging into Dedoose, you may see the demo project pulled up for you and a bunch of data here. If that's the case, navigate to your projects workspace on the upper right, and this is where you'll see your demo project, any other projects you've created, or projects that you've been invited to. You can hit Create New Project in the bottom right corner, or use the little addition icon in the top right, and this will take you to an area to create a new project. For today, I already created a project and I have it loaded, but just know that if you want to create a new project, you can title it, include a project description, and then there's an option for an extra layer of encryption here. This is our highest level of security, and if you lose that encryption password, you will not be able to retrieve your data because Dedoose does not keep that information either. So use that wisely. I'm going to go ahead and go back to our webinar project here and hit load. So first I want to give you an orientation to these different workspaces. Right now we're on the home screen, and you'll see that Dedoose is giving us a preview of different areas and workspaces here. Right now they're all blank because we don't have any data uploaded or coded yet, but that will change shortly. Often I advise people to navigate to the specific workspace that they want to be working in rather than working from these home screen windows, just because it can be more clear and you get more features if you go to that specific workspace. On the upper left, you'll see some macro project information. So you'll see your project title and then a bunch of information about how many users, pieces of media, excerpts, codes, code applications that you have in your project. And you'll also see that's where you can import data and export data as well. You'll also see the project title on the upper right. And then right next to the project title are some icons I want to go over. So far to the right, you have your logout button. Your reload button is great if you're working in real time with other folks and you feel like you're not seeing the most up-to-date information. You can always hit the reload button and that will refresh it for you. The Help Center connects you to different resources that Dedoose has. One that's not listed currently is the YouTube page. So just know that Dedoose Support has a great YouTube page with a bunch of different tutorials for you. Next, we have our instant messaging system. So this is great and underscores those real-time collaboration features. You'll see on the left-hand side here, it will list all people in the project. Currently, it's just me. And then you also have this instant messaging area where you can send instant messages to other folks who are currently in the project, whether that's to coordinate a call or ask a question, any info that you want to exchange. This area does clear out, I believe, after 24 to 48 hours. So if you message something important to your project, be sure to copy and paste that in a memo to make sure that that's saved. One icon to the left will take you to the same place. It's just showing you how many active users are in your project. You have your background tasks button. This will tell you if you have any large files still being processed by Dedoose. You have your volume button, and then an unpin or pin the header. So this is great if you don't want to be distracted by this upper area, or perhaps if you're working on a smaller screen and you want to maximize your working space, you can unpin this header, and then you'll see you have a bit more space to work with. I'm going to go ahead and repin it. All right, and then we have these different workspaces. So your codes workspace, this will house your full code book on the left-hand side here. Your media workspace will house all of the qualitative data in your project. So earlier when we were talking about transcripts, video, images, audio files, any open-ended qualitative data from a survey, all of that information will be listed for you here. Your excerpts workspace houses every single thing that you've coded in your data. So all of those snippets of information that you've attached codes to will be listed here, and you can think of this as a huge database, allowing you to do some advanced sorting and filtering depending on what you want to see. Those are more advanced features, so I'm not going to cover that today. The descriptors workspace will house all of the quantitative, categorical, or demographic information that you want to use as descriptors. You can create descriptors either by manually creating them via this set fields area. For instance, if I wanted to create a field called gender and then have different options listed, I could do so. And you can also import those via a spreadsheet. And we have more advanced tutorials speaking specifically to those functions and features. Next, we have the Analyze workspace. Dedoose has dozens and dozens of charts here to help you visualize your data and dig into your data deeper. Often, I point people to about 5 to 7 charts that will be pretty helpful no matter what type of data or analysis you're doing, and we'll also link that video in the notes for you. But just know that it sometimes can be nice to just play around in this Analyze workspace and then ask more targeted questions once your analysis progresses. Next, we have our Memos workspace. So this will house every single memo that's been written in the project, and you have options to create different memo groups that you can filter by. And there's a whole bunch of different memo options that we also have a specific video for if you're interested in those. The training workspace is great if you want to train someone up on your codebook or test inter-rater reliability using Cohen's kappa. So that's a statistical test that's gauging your level of agreeability between two coders. Know that there are qualitative approaches that you can use within Dedoose to gauge trustworthiness and reliability between two coders. We also have some videos on that. But if you need a Cohen's kappa score, you can get one by creating a test in this workspace. Next, we have our security workspace. This is where you would add other people to the project that you wanted to collaborate with. So as I mentioned earlier, real-time collaboration is super easy with Dedoose. You would simply hit Add User, search for the user that you want to add to your project. There are different security groups you can put them in, all the way from you can only view and you can't touch anything, basically, all the way to a full project manager and virtually everything in between. Next, you have your datasets workspace. This is where you can do some advanced filtering and create subsets of your data. So here you can filter by descriptors, media, users. So if I wanted to work in the project but only see my own coding, for instance, so that I wasn't distracted by other folks, I could deactivate other users. And you can also filter by codes as well. And then we have our projects workspace that we were already in, and your account workspace. So this is great if you want to add a user to your account. So not your project, but your account if you wanted to pay for them. This is also where you can edit any of your information, such as your email, your password. If you want an overview of all of your account projects, they'll be listed here. Any billing information, or if you want to make a payment within Dedoose, you can do that quite easily. And then also some security information. So there are a bunch of different options. If you, for instance, need two-factor authentication or to enforce a specific password policy with your team, you can do so. All right, now let's transition to actually uploading data and get to the fun part of coding. I prefer to use the large import data button here, but again, you can import data where you see that little addition icon in your media workspace as well. So I'm going to hit import data, and then Dedoose is going to ask, what type of data do you want to upload today? You have options from the spreadsheet, text, image, audio, video, PDFs. You can create a blank document and copy and paste information in, or you can import a whole project. Today I'm going to be working with a Word document interview, so I'm going to hit import text. Choose the file off of my hard drive and click open. And then you'll see Dedoose is giving us an update of was that document uploaded, and it was pretty instantaneous. So it has already been processed and it's available for us here in our media workspace. So I'm going to follow my own advice and go to the media workspace to view this document. You'll see any other documents I had would be listed here, along with who uploaded it, when, how many excerpts exist, and also the length of the document according to character count. And then we have columns for any descriptor information or memos that are attached to the document. And just know that you can search by specific title of document, and you can also search within the document. So if you are looking for a specific person, phrase, or concept, you could type it in here and Dedoose will filter those documents for you. Alrighty, now I'm going to click on this document to go inside. And then we're taken to this document view where you can begin coding. Before that, I want to go over some settings and features here. So in the upper left, you'll see a little sliders icon. This is your settings panel where you can adjust your font size. So I'm going to pump this up a bit. You'll also see options to include line numbers, if you want to see memos or not see memos within your document. If you want to change the orientation of the text, you can do so. And you can also choose a custom color scheme. So once we start creating codes, you'll be met with an option to attach a custom color to it. If you choose to do so, you could activate that through this settings panel. One icon over is the little lock icon. If you see a mistake in your document or if you have something you want to correct, you can unlock it and then make some changes and relock it. And then on the upper right, we have the search tool. If you wanted to search for a specific word or phrase, you can do so. I'm going to search for coffee. It's telling me how many times coffee was mentioned. And then if I hit next, it will take me to that specific area in the transcript. You can also search by character position. So if you're working with a team member and you want to alert them to where you are in the transcript, you could select that area of the transcript, and then on the lower left, you'll see the character count for you. So 2910, I could type that in, and Dedoose will take me to that area of the transcript. Alrighty, then wherever you see an arrow pointing up in Dedoose, this is the export icon. So in this instance, you can export a document, and once you have it coded, you can actually export it with those code applications attached. So it's a really useful tool if you want to work offline or if you just want to take a step back from your computer and assess your documents and your coding. Next, we have that edit media icon. This is where you could change the title of the document, include a description, and there's also an option to clone. So if you wanted to create an exact replica of this document and all the coding and all the memos that you have attached to it, you can do so. All right, I'm going to X out of here. And now we can begin coding. I'm going to show you 3 different ways to code, with the first one being the longest, most cumbersome way, so that you understand what's happening behind the scenes in Dedoose. And then I'll end with the most efficient way with the quick code widget. So let's say I'm going through this document and I'm interested in this passage of text. I'm going to highlight it just like I would if I were working on pen and paper. And then in the lower right, you'll see this little quotation mark. It's red and the icon reads Create Excerpt from Selection. I'm going to go ahead and click on that icon. And then you'll see Dedoose just created an excerpt for us. And our selection info box is red, telling us that you're currently editing this excerpt. So we can attach codes, delete them, attach memos, etc. Since we don't have any codes in our code book yet, we should go ahead and create a code. And you can do that from this little mini codebook workspace. So I'm going to select the little addition icon, add root code, and then a little pop-up window will appear and prompt you to include a title. I'm going to go local coffee, and then a description. Be sure to always include the most detailed description you can, even if you're working alone. This is a huge step in your analysis, so be sure to include those descriptions. Then you have your custom color option that I was mentioning if you want to attach a color to the code. And you also have a code weighting feature. I'm not going to go into this feature in depth today, but just know that you can attach a numerical value to a code to indicate valence, sentiment, or if you wanted to quantify something within your qualitative data. And I'm going to go ahead and hit submit. Now we'll see we have that code in our codebook here, and it is ready to attach to our excerpt. You can click and drag and drop, or you can just double click that code and it attaches it to the excerpt for us. You also see we have the option to remove it if we made a mistake, and you can also delete the whole excerpt at the top level X if you wanted to clear it out completely. Now I'm just going to click anywhere else in the document, and now you'll see our selection info box is no longer red because we're no longer in that excerpt. So we can move on, and I'm going to create a couple more codes here that we can play around with. Let's go. Technology. submit. Now we have 2 codes. So the second way to code is very similar to the first. Again, you would highlight the area that you're interested in. But instead of clicking the Create Excerpt icon, we're just going to double click the code or codes that we want to apply to the excerpt. So I'm going to double click Technology, and you'll see that Dedoose created the excerpt for us, and it attached the technology code. So we got to skip a step. And you can attach as many codes as you need. Next, we're going to use the Quick Code widget. So this is the most efficient and I think fun way to code in Dedoose. So again, we're going to highlight the area that we want to attach a code to, but this time we're going to hit the space bar on our keyboard. And this brings up the Quick Code widget where we can quickly search for any codes, and you can just double click to apply them. And you can even create new codes from this area. So let's say I wanted to add the code conversations. I could just type in the word and then hit enter. And then you'll see Dedoose put that code in our codebook and attached it to the excerpt. So this is a super quick and efficient way to code, especially when your codebook gets more lengthy and it may be harder to sit here and scroll. You can always use your Quick Code widget to quickly get to the code that you want to attach. One side note, if you're going to use the Quick Code widget to create new codes, you may have noticed that we were not able to attach a description right when we made the code. Whenever you create a new code from the Quick Code widget, be sure to go back to your codebook, hover over that code, and click the Edit Gear icon, and that will pull up that pop-up window that allows us to add a description to the code. And then hit Submit. If you want to get back into an excerpt you've already created, you'll see the bars to the left. If you hover over them, it will tell you who created that excerpt and then what codes are attached to that excerpt. If we want to edit it, we can click on that bar, and then you'll notice we're back in our red selection info box. And this is where we could delete codes or delete the excerpt altogether. And the last function that I want to leave you with today is how to attach a memo to an excerpt. So as you go through and analyze your data, it's best to keep track of all of your analytical, reflexive thoughts, and also any team notes, or maybe just notes to yourself. So let's say I wanted to add a memo to this excerpt that we've already created. I'm going to go ahead and click on that bar to reactivate that excerpt, and then go to our selection info box. You're going to see a tiny little icon. It looks like a Post-it note on the top excerpt level here. If you go ahead and click that, that's going to bring up the pop-up window to create and attach a memo to this excerpt. So you can create the title, include your brilliant thoughts here, and then hit save. So now we have that memo and it is attached to this excerpt, and you'll see that memo icon pop up in the transcript. So let's go ahead and create another excerpt and memo here. Again, I'm going to hit on that Post-it note icon. And this time I want to bring your attention to the memo groups option. So you can create memo groups to help categorize all the memos in your project. So I've been talking a lot about analytical memos. So I'm going to create a group called Analytical. I'm going to hit Create Group. And you can create as many groups as you need. Often people find codes to be a good group if you have any questions about your code interpretations or applications. Reflexive memos, perhaps methods memos as well. And then again, you would include your title and then your actual memo and hit save. If you want to review any memos that you've written in your project, you can do so through the main memos workspace. And again, we have an in-depth video on memos if you're more interested in how best to use those. All right, so that's where I'll leave it today. And I want to make sure to connect you to some resources that you may find helpful. So first off, we have our official Dedoose textbook. It really merges the conceptual and theoretical foundations of research with Dedoose features and functions. So it's written by mixed methods and qualitative researchers, and there's a bunch of case study examples of folks using Dedoose for their research. So it's a really hands-on approach that's bound to research methods. If you purchase a book, you also get 2 months free of Dedoose. Just send a copy of the receipt to our support team and they can hook you up. And lastly, if you're interested in more targeted videos, visit the YouTube channel at Dedoose Support. There's also the user guide on the website. If you're interested in setting up training or you want to have a call about an organizational subscription for your university or organization, feel free to email support@dedoose.com. And then if you're looking for more support and training that's more methodological and incorporating research methods, we partner with the Institute for Mixed Methods Research, so you can email contact@immrglobal.org and they'll get back to you. I'm going to stick around for questions for the last few minutes here, but thank you so much for coming today and I hope y'all take care.